More now on that nearly $500 billion interim coronavirus relief bill passed by the House last night. President Trump will be signing it today. The bill includes more than $320 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program, which initially ran out of money due to heavy demand. $60 billion would be set aside for businesses that do not have established banking relationships, such as rural and minority-owned companies. The bill also provides $60 billion in loans and grants for Small Business Administration's Disaster Relief Fund. At the same time, the Treasury Department is now out with a new warning. Publicly traded companies have 2 weeks to give back the loans intended for small businesses or face severe consequences. Shake Shack already gave their money back. Now Ruth's Chris is doing the same thing. Joining us now, Seth Harris. He's a visiting professor at Cornell Institute for Public Affairs and former acting Secretary of Labor under President Obama. Josh Brown, CEO of Ruhle Wealth Management. Seth, let's go to you first. The government, it's not just the public, the government is now shaming some of these businesses, saying you better give the money back. But here's the thing. The spirit of this program was the Paycheck Protection Program. So we're talking about keeping businesses from laying off their low-wage workers. How is it that the government is now saying they violated the terms of this thing? The government made the terms.
You're exactly right. I agree with the point that this is the government's fault. Businesses have as their job making profit. And so companies that can squeeze inside a program that gives them extremely low interest loans that are then forgivable are going to try to do that. So government failed here. The SBA, Treasury, and Congress failed to set up rules that made it impossible for publicly traded companies, companies that are sitting on huge pots of capital, companies that have access to debt markets and capital markets should have been excluded, but government didn't do it. So we're left with this crazy system where we put up threats from the Treasury Department and SBA, and we rely on journalists like you to find these stories. That's not the way it really should work.
Josh, is the issue we shouldn't be debating what's a small business or not? Is the issue that the government put businesses with 2 employees fighting for the same pool of capital as businesses with 480 employees?
Yeah, I think we screamed at the banks to get the money out the door as quickly as they could, and that's what they did. We talk about a 14-day period for this money to get out to small business, but the reality is almost the entire first week was spent with banks going back and forth to the government to clarify things. They didn't even have forms set up. So actually, we pushed a year's worth of loans through the banking system in a weekend. And bankers, people say, well, look at the size of these businesses. Well, it's not about the size of the business. We're talking about 2.5 months worth of payroll. So, of course, there are more employees involved with the bigger numbers. But I agree with Seth. I think we had to distinguish better between a company classifying each of their restaurants as its own small business so that this wouldn't have happened. But to be frank, it's still not enough money. We only covered 1.6 million businesses. There are 6 million with under 500 employees. So there's more money that needs to go out, and maybe this time they'll do a better job explaining who qualifies, who doesn't.
Seth, but what about all those businesses that have now been shamed into giving the money back or not participating? They are in bad shape, whether or not they're teeny tiny or medium size. If you own 15 restaurants, you're in trouble right now. Does the government need to create a different program? They're not sitting on piles of capital. They're not just, oh, we got this. Even if I was super rich, if I owned 15 restaurants right now and I was forced to shut them down, it wouldn't make any business sense for me to bring those employees back and pay them out of my pocket when I have no revenue coming in.
Right, but larger businesses that have existing banking relationships, particularly with the larger banks, can find loans from other sources. They don't have to go to a government-guaranteed program that gives them a 1% interest rate. They also have the ability, particularly if they're publicly traded, to go to public equity markets in order to be able to get capital. And also, let me just say, Steph, you're being a little bit too generous. Some of these companies are sitting on huge profits, and they can spend down what they have in reserves in order to be able to survive. We need the neighborhood.
I'm with you. Seth, I'm with you. They can absolutely spend that money. But for those businesses, it doesn't make business sense for them to hire back their employees while they're shut down. And that's the whole point of this program, isn't it?
That is the point of the program. But, we have to make some choices about who we're going to help with government and who we're going to rely on the market to help. You're a big advocate for markets. There are debt markets available to those bigger businesses. Ruth's Chris is able to get money. It's just not going to be at 1%. It might be at 4, 5, or 6%. They have those banking relationships. So they should be able to borrow the money, keep people on the payroll, do the right thing, establish the kind of systems in their organization that keeps their business running.
Absolutely. Just quickly, last point to you, Josh. If you're one of those businesses, you could absolutely raise money, but would it make business sense for you to hire back a bunch of employees while they can get unemployment from the government when you have no idea when you're reopening? Would you do that?
No, I think you raise a good point. Look, we cannot fully judge whether or not the program worked until 8 weeks have elapsed from the first disbursement of cash, and we can see whether or not people in good faith actually used the money to keep their employees. If we find out that there are people that had no intention of keeping their employees or didn't try very hard, especially if they're huge companies that do have access to public markets, then that's a failure. But if we find out that most of the companies that were involved got these loans forgivable, meaning they satisfied the criteria by keeping their employees, then yes, were there some flaws? Were there some companies that shouldn't have been involved? Of course. But overall, your main point, Stephanie, is the right one. The goal is to keep people, not let people go and then try to rehire them. So let's give it some time and see whether or not that's what ended up happening.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much. Next,